guys, it's Destiny. I am going to be filming a tutorial, hopefully, pretty easy tutorial on how I make my little mini ornament, like mini album ornaments. Full disclosure, this was completely inspired from Tiffany's tutorial from Let's Get Scrappy, which I will link below. The only reason I am sharing a tutorial of this because it's definitely her design as far as like the design and the accordion pages. I tweaked my size and I had a couple people ask for me to share the kind of process for that and those adjustments. And I also wanted to show how I did my little ornament thing because I don't know, maybe it wouldn't take you guys forever, but it took me forever to figure out a cute way to make this little ornament thing. And then the other change that I made is that instead of doing magnets, I just did a ribbon tie closure right here, which is nice because since you don't have multiple magnets, it's not super bulky. So when you do add photos, you have to think when you add photos, it's potentially gonna like increase in size by like at least like 30% or more, so that it's not gonna be too chunky. So you definitely have room to fill this up all the way without it alligatoring. And to be honest, with the magnets, I'm not even sure how well the magnets would work once the recipient puts photos in. So I just think the ribbon tie closure is cute, and I will go over how I added that in. But yeah, otherwise, it was, her idea, and so I do want to just give her the credit for that. So the changes that I made, her album the album itself measures 2 by 3, which means that by the time you get in here to the accordion and then the photos, everything has to be smaller than 2 by 3. So the recipient would have to alter their 2 by 3 size photos. And I just wanted to make an album where they could just put a 2 by 3 size photo in it without adjusting it. So this is a piece of 2 by 3 paper. So when you put the photo in, your 2 by 3 photo, you still can have a cute little border. Obviously on some of these, like the border won't really matter that much, but like on the pattern paper, it's nice because you can still have that cute border on there. And even if you don't care about the border, the recipient doesn't have to alter their photos, which is nice. So anyway, if you guys would like to see how I made it with these adjustments, please keep watching and I will show you. Okay, so let's go over what you're gonna need for the first part. So for covering the chipboard and making the accordion pages, you are just going to need 2 sheets of 8.5 by 11 cardstock. You can use 12 by 12 paper if that's what you have, but that is, this is what I'm using because I like to save my 12 by 12 paper when I can, okay? And then what we're gonna do with the first sheet of paper is you're going to cut a piece that measures 6 7/8 by 4 3/4. I'll put that on the screen again. And then this is what we're going to use to cover the inside. So this is going to measure 5 3/8 by 3 1/4. So you can set that aside for now, but you don't have to cut down your paper like this. You could just, do it on the full 8.5 by 11, but if you want to just use like scraps of paper that you have, you definitely can do it like this. So you are going to need 2 pieces of chipboard that measure 2 3/8 by 3 3/8, okay? And then for the spine, it is going to be 1/2 inch by 3 3/8, okay? And we're just going to cover that bad boy real quick. And this is a small project, so I just use glue. I know some people use like score tape, but I don't like to. I just find it cumbersome to put it all down and then tear it all off, and I just don't really have trouble with glue personally. Okay, so there we go. Sorry if you can hear the lawnmowers. sorry about that. But when I am using glue, I do just like to flip it over and make sure that my glue is really spread out. Okay. And I just use a little tool to space out my spine. I like to make sure my spine is really well covered so that there's no separating from the spine. Okay, and you're just gonna put that bad boy down. And then our last piece. Okay, so this is what we have. She's all covered. You can cut off like a little bit of the extra if you want to. You really don't need that much to cover it, but anyway, I am just going to miter my corners and I'll put timestamps in this video in case you do not care to watch this part and you just want to get to like the next step of the accordion or whatever. Okay, all right. And then I'm just gonna keep gluing this bad boy down. And then I just fold, just work that in. And then I burnish that down really good. And I tuck in my little corners. Okay, do the same thing to this side. And then I also just kind of like go over the spine a little bit so that it's easier to see. Like I score a little bit in there. Not too much because I don't want to rip the paper or anything. And then we will tuck in those corners again. Okay, then we'll do the sides. If you have any like extra paper sticking out that didn't really get tucked, I just kind of gently go over it with the end of my bone folder. Okay, now we are going to take that sheet that measures 5 3/4 by 3 1/4, and we are just going to cover the inside. And then we will go over the accordion pages and how you do that. Do that, and then I like the spine to be down really good, so then I'm going to center that. Okay, and I'm gonna start burnishing that down. And I really like to go over the spine and the edges. I like to use a different bone folder for my spine, but kind of where those lines were, gonna burnish down a little bit more. I'm just using the chunky part of it because I don't want it to tear the paper or anything like that. So then I am just going to continue doing that while I kind of bend it up a little bit. On both sides. Okay, and then we've got our little book. So we can go ahead and set this aside for now while we're working on the inside pages. Okay, next you are going to need a sheet of paper that measures 6.5 inches in length by 11 inches. Okay, and then we are going to score. So this, it uses you connect 2 sheets for the accordion. And so we're just gonna do this to score one time, which Tiffany showed in her video, which is so smart. And then we'll cut it in half. So you are going to score, you want your pages to be 2 1/4 essentially. So you are going to score this first at 2 1/4. And then you are going to score at 4 1/2. Then 6 3/4. Sorry about the weed whacking. And then 9 inches, okay? So that is where you'll be scoring. And you can see this obviously is smaller than the rest of these, but I will show you how we attach it so that doesn't even matter. Okay, so let's go ahead and cut this in half. So now we are gonna take this paper that we have scored and we are just going to cut this in half at the 3 1/4 mark, okay? So then we have both of our pages, and then I just like to double check that they actually line up so that everything is symmetrical when we do our folds, okay? And they do, so hallelujah. So we're making sure she lines up, and then you can burnish. So you're just doing a Z-fold. So alternating which direction you fold at each score line. Okay. So that you have something that's looking like that. Okay. Okay, so you will, at the end of that, have 2 of these little accordions. And on each one, you are going to have 1 flap that is smaller than the rest, okay? So that is important to know. The first small flap is the one that we are going to glue directly down on that, because it won't matter that it's smaller because you're gluing it onto the cover. Okay, and then the other small flap is going to be the one that we use to attach our accordion together. And I like to make sure that it is oriented in a way, so first small flap, second small flap, and I like this first one to open this way. I don't know why, that's just what I like. It's just what makes sense to me, okay? So just make sure you pay attention to that. So I like to put the glue on the smaller side. And I like to put a decent amount of glue because it's our connection point and I want it to hold on there, okay? So then, you just go ahead and line that up, and since we're using glue, you can move it around a little bit, but you just don't want it to go over this one at all, and you want it to be pretty even with it so that it's lined up good. Okay, and that looks good. So I'm gonna go ahead and burnish that down. Okay, so that is what you are left with, your little accordion. So here is where we're going to attach it in the book. Now, remember, small side is gonna go right there. So the first couple ones that I made, I did magnet closures. I think I'm going to try a ribbon closure, which this is important to note because you would have to do this step before gluing it down. Okay, so I picked out a blue ribbon because I'm going to be using this Winnie the Pooh because I have some scraps of this that I want to use up. So I'm going to be using this blue ribbon because there's blues in that. So you would just want to pick out a color that matches with the paper you're going to use. And I cut way too much, obviously, but that's okay. I just want to leave all the extra until after we're done with the paper matting because this is obviously going to get thicker with the pictures, or the matting of the paper and the pictures and everything. So anyway, we are going to attach this ribbon to the back. I'm just going to use, to start with, some double-sided tape. And yeah. Okay, I'm going to do a couple of those, and then we're also going to glue it down. So I just want that sucker to be on there good. Okay, so I am just getting that down. I am going to untie this now so that we can, get that out of the way a little bit more easily. Okay, so I'm gonna rip off my score tape before I add my glue. This is so hard because I have no nails. Okay, so then we are going to add our glue. Can you even see that? Oh yeah, you can, okay. And then you want the fold to be what goes on this edge. So I'm just gonna line that up and with that paper that we put in there, and then put that down. Okay. And then you want to make sure that, you have enough space right there, which you totally do. So I'm gonna go ahead and burnish that down real good, especially around that ribbon. Okay. Okay. So then you have this little guy. So let's test this out. And then I would recommend you use a smaller ribbon, or even like using a twine would be cute as well, because you just don't want something too bulky. And I also don't necessarily want the ribbon to show, when it's closed like this. So I'm gonna leave the extra ribbon for now, and then I'm gonna go ahead and put all my paper in. So here are the things, you wanna know. You can leave this as an adorable mini album, certainly, or you can add the hole right here and turn it into an ornament. I will show you that at the end. But essentially, you are just gonna pick your pattern paper that you wanna do. And since this measures 2 1/4 by 3 1/4, you would cut down that pattern paper to 2 1/8 by 3 1/8 and stick that on there, obviously. Then the recipient can add their 2 by 3 photos and still have a cute border around their photo. But anyway, you want to do all your paper on the inside. When you're doing your paper on the outside, just remember, if you're going to do the ribbon tie closure, which I recommend, you have to put that in prior to putting your paper on the top. So I am going to kind of do all my paper matting, and then I'll come back for the last steps as far as the ribbon and the making it into an ornament. BRB. Okay, it's me from the future. Well, I guess it's not really from the future because this is still gonna be in the past, so never mind. But okay, so I have mine all decorated, paper matted, whatever you want to say. So if you just want to keep this as a mini album, voila, you're done. Adorable. But I am going to turn this one into an ornament. So all you need is either, some sort of hole punch that can punch through the chipboard. and you're just gonna create a hole at the top, and that's where the ribbon tie, or the ribbon or ornament attachment is gonna go. So let me see. I'm gonna use the 3/16 side, and I am just gonna line that up in the middle, but far enough down that it's not like on that. I want it to be like down and in the middle. Okay, perfect. And then I am going to use an eyelet. Okay, I found a red one that I'm gonna use. And I'm gonna have the top of the eyelet on the outer portion. Just push that through. Okay. And we are going to set that. Coolio. All right, then you are going to attach your ribbon for the, you know, ornament part. So I am just gonna use the same ribbon that is the closure ribbon, because yeah, that's what I'm gonna do. Okay, and let's see, I want enough for the ribbon part and then also tying a bow. So I'm gonna cut more ribbon than I need, but we'll just trim the extra off when we're done. So how I do this is I kind of find how far I want it to hang down. So I think this is probably a good, you know, distance. And then I just start to tie a knot, and then I double knot it. Okay, where did it go? Okay. So I take a piece of ribbon and I tie a little bit of a knot right here, just so that I know what I want my actual ornament hanging part to be, but then you want all this extra for your bow that you're gonna tie, because I just think the bow's cute. But if you don't like the bow, you don't have to do the bow. So I insert this top part through first, which can sometimes be a little challenging. Okay, great. And then I just do whatever this is, where you send it through like that, okay? This is what we have now. This little knot is right here on the outside, and then we have our little loop slip knot. What is that? I don't know. So to tie a bow, and before I tie the bow, I'm actually gonna put a little bit of Fabri-Tac glue in there, and then tighten that and hold that down, because I want this to stay pretty secure. Okay, then for my bow, I take a loop, put that loop under that loop, so now they're like crossing like that, and then I put this one under and pull it through. Okay, then that kind of makes the bow tie right side up, and you can kind of just tweak it a little bit until you think it looks nice. Okay, so I think that's pretty cute. So I'm also gonna glue under this little bow part. Okay, and now, Sorry if you couldn't see that, but you know what I mean. You just glue it a little bit. So now I'm just gonna go ahead and trim all my extra ribbon off. Okay, because there's a lot of extra. Now that I have this on there, I don't know that I love the blue ribbon with the blue ribbon, but that's okay. Okay, and then you have your adorable little ornament album. Whoa, okay. Which is so cute, and I honestly don't even think I'm gonna add anything else. I think the cover with the gold foiling is pretty, and so I don't think I'll even embellish it anymore. But yeah, so that is how that little tie goes, and you can use any kind of ribbon. You could even do smaller, you know, the smaller punch with the smaller eyelets, and use maybe like twine or something like that. And then you open it, and it's like you have another little present that you can open, and then you can go and flip through it all, or just accordion out. And oops, I forgot a page. Accordion out that way. So that was the tutorial. Like I said, this was definitely Tiffany's idea as far as, you know, the design of the ornament album. I am just sharing this because I changed the size, and I wanted to show you guys how I did my little, you know, the ribbon part, and then I did a ribbon tie closure on the inside instead of magnets this time, which I personally really like. I think it's super cute. It is more lightweight, and then it's not as bulky because you don't have all those magnets bulking it up, which means you have the ability, like, you can put all your photos in and it's not gonna like alligator out or anything like that. So that is the finished product. If you guys found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing to my channel. I'm gonna make a bunch of these because I think they'd be so cute at a craft fair, and I just love how this Winnie the Pooh one turned out. I was able to make 2 Winnie the Pooh ones, and so I ended up smashing my whole Winnie the Pooh Christmas collection kit from that, basically. And I also had a Christmas folio, which I had a different project here on. Anyway, I know this one's really blue, but I like it. Personally, I think it's super cute with all the blue. But my other one is not like all blue like this, so it's a little more traditional Christmas. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. Bye.